do we wait too long then if we do not strike while the iron is hot and get somebody like Jurgen Klinsmann, who seems to be, beckoning or at least sitting at the door waiting to come in?
I almost think, though, that we went through this process before Bob became hired from interim to full-time coach.
Right.
And in all honesty, I don't know that U.S. Soccer and led by Sunil Gulati, I don't know that they're going to be willing to give Jurgen Klinsmann all the power that he wants to control the U.S. men's national team in order to make it work his way.
Yeah.
So I almost think, it's a non-discussion, because although Jurgen is sitting there, and I mean, that would be one name that I would be in favor for. I would say if you can get Jurgen Klinsmann and bring him to the table to run the U.S. men's national team, I mean, there's probably not a better candidate out there for the job right now.
Right.
Because he lives here in the U.S., he's been following what the men's national team has been doing here in this country. He's got his own, obviously, incredible resume of what he's done as a player and as a coach. But I just don't have the gut feeling that U.S. Soccer is going to give him what he wants in terms of control to allow him to do what he would want to do with the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, and well, Jurgen, in an interview during the whole World Cup, he did say that really one of the big problems was he couldn't work out a time with the timing with MLS. He wanted more breaks for international play during the MLS season. He almost hinted that he almost wanted them to change the timing of the season, and that seemed to be what he said was the roadblock. I mean, and then he said, well, I figured out since then that's not really a roadblock, that there is some flexibility there. It just sounded to me during the World Cup maybe Klinsmann was hinting at this. I mean, I may be making this up, though, Mark. I have a very vivid imagination.
Hey, I mean, that's the beauty of talking soccer right now is that, who doesn't like to talk about the rumor mill and some of the things you have and have not heard? I mean, I love those types of discussions. Yeah. Who's going to go to this team? Who's maybe going to make a move here?
Yeah.
Thank goodness for Twitter, right? I mean, it gets it all going, just stirs the pot, right? So, by the way, it's at @Rogondino, for those of you who want to follow along. Oh, that was a shameless plug, wasn't it?
No, we're here for shameless plugs, Mark. Absolutely.
No, but just to answer your question, I think that, if there's a possibility that they could do it and get him in there, and if he's not opposed to the amount of power that they would give him, then I think it's something you definitely have to give a serious look at.
Right. And I think maybe we're seeing a slow transformation in the MLS, in the USSF. With the inclusion of former players, which that just didn't happen for the longest time. You've got Wynalda involved in some way. You've got Claudio, Reyna involved, and there are rumors that others will be involved soon. How a guy like Thomas Dooley has managed to not get involved over all these years in a deeper way is really a mystery to me. But, do you see a sort of that slow progress, that transition happening?
Wow. I expect a lot of these guys to get involved, but it's almost it's a tough equation sometimes when you're weighing the value of that person as a player, when you're weighing what they did on the field as a player compared to what they can do as a coach. Because as we know from watching soccer all over the globe, being a great player does not always equate to being a great coach.
Absolutely.
And so, I think it's a tough situation sometimes because, you're lured in by the fact that, hey, this guy was a great player and did so many great things on the field for us, for the U.S., or in his time when he went over to Europe and played over in Europe. But is he willing to put in that same hard work and come into the office every day to develop young U.S. players for the future? I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer to that question, but I think that's one of the ways you definitely need to look at it. And going back to us talking about Klinsmann, I think the answer is 100% yes. He's dedicated to developing young talent. He gets a joy out of that. He enjoys working with young players and seeing their talents brought to the surface and their abilities, bear fruit. He enjoys that. We need those types of people in our system. I just don't know that it always is going to come from some of the big name guys that have, dotted the board so far.
And Klinsmann loves American soccer and America, which is a good thing. And but there were those rumors about Bob Bradley going to Fulham, and now you see them popping up about Aston Villa. Honestly, my feeling is, Mark, and I'd like to get yours, is I'm not sure English Premier League football is ready quite yet for an American manager taking over a team at that level. I wish it were. I wish it were true. And I think Bob could handle it. But I just wonder, what do you feel about that? These rumors are just rampant, and most of them are factually unfounded.
I would agree with you to a degree there, in the sense that I think that, yes, Bob Bradley can handle it. And it's going to take the right type of personality from a U.S. coaching perspective to be able to go over there and handle it. Certainly with, handling a World Cup team for the past 4 years or so for Bob Bradley, he's had to deal with handling players of different personalities from all over the place. Mm-hmm. So I think Bob could definitely handle it. But to kind of go a little bit deeper, saying that, I'm not sure that a U.S. coach is ready to go over and manage there in the Premier League. The hard thing would be
mm-hmm.
is how quickly would the window close if he didn't have success?
Exactly.
It would. It's been the opposite for U.S. goalkeepers going over there. If you go back to when Brad Freidel first went over there and Kasey Keller went over there, and then now let's open the door for Guzan, let's open the door for Tim Howard, Marcus Hanneman,
right.
All of these guys, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I wish we knew that these U.S. goalkeepers were so good, and given them a shot maybe sooner. So
yeah.
It can go one of two ways when you're talking about managers going over there. Certainly, it would be a big feather in the cap of U.S. soccer and soccer in this country in general if someone like Bob Bradley went over there, took over Aston Villa, and all of a sudden started having success. Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, if there were a league that was more open than any other, it would be the English Premier League. They do seem to, regardless of the bashing we get on the press side in England, I don't think they respect the MLS or U.S. soccer that much sometimes. But the players and the managers in England have a different perspective on that. And that's the good news for us. That's changing.
Yeah, no, that's without question. And when you think about it, even some small intricacies, such as there would be no language barrier going over there, really, for a U.S. coach to have to try and go into the German Bundesliga or, go into the Eredivisie in Holland,
yeah.
You'd have to deal with a whole other element of trying to communicate to the majority of your players, either through a translator or if that U.S. coach was able to pick up the language quickly. But if they were to go just to England, it would be more just about the soccer and what that coach could bring, as opposed to a lot of other fine details trying to be worked out to make it almost have less obstacles along the road.
We're almost running out of time, but I wanted to get to the MLS before. And, how about the intensity of that Red Bulls and Chicago Fire game the other day? They packed the house. The intensity was a bit reminiscent of an EPL level game, wasn't it? I haven't seen this kind of intensity. You see it in Seattle, you've seen it in Toronto over the years, but I haven't seen anything like this, on a more consistent basis than I have this season for MLS.
Well, in all fairness, I caught bits and pieces of that game, but to speak to really New York as a team and what they have done in the last calendar year is just fantastic. I think they have set a blueprint for other teams to follow, in the sense that they locked down their brand new Red Bull Arena, which is a fantastic place. We'll be there this weekend, which will be another good crowd. L.A., New York, they've
big one, yeah.
Put on fantastic games between those two teams since New York became the Red Bulls a few seasons back.
Right.
Then they've gone out, and they didn't just settle on just having one DP come in. They've gone out and brought two huge players to the table this year, in Marquez and Henry.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to talk about it a little bit on Saturday, but even a little bit underneath the surface, Joel Linpere has been the Estonian has been an incredible player for them. And then you look at their draft, picking up Tim Ream, the rookie center back.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, if you watch him when he plays against high caliber players, some of the when they were in the Barclays New York Challenge playing against Man City and Tottenham, this guy was cool and calm on the ball, in his early 20s, no pressure at all, Cruyff movements under pressure with a guy on his back, releasing the ball out of the back I mean, they have done a great job top to bottom with acquisitions, off-field stuff, draft, and even the coach, Hans Baca. They have done a fantastic job just making themselves instant competitors, not only in the East, but to go to MLS Cup and win it.
Oh, Hans Bach has been great with the formation there and making sure guys are in the right place at the right time, wherever the ball is on the field. And you're right about Tim Ream. I'm surprised he didn't get a shot this weekend as well.